the off night. We're talking about comedy. We're talking about past career, current career, future career. We're talking about topical events that are going on. And we'll talk about maybe some production. What we could be doing with this show. It's a Monday night. We're always here Monday night at 8 o'clock. Even though it is a holiday, we're still doing it because it stays on tape on the YouTube channel until we do next Monday night. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Let me bring down All right. Well, okay. So there's where we are. And normally Andy introduces us. I sent Andy the link on both the Facebook Messenger, his phone, and his email, because he always has a different way of connecting to us depending on where he's at, and we can't always predict that. And sometimes he's even shown up at my house or my condo to sit next to me and do the show with me there, but haven't heard from him, so I guess we skipped that little segment where we kind of chit-chat about how our week's gone. And it's time to go right to Susan with her poem. She's here, as always. And
ready for me already?
Yeah, because I don't have any Andy here, so we're going to you sooner than we normally do.
Hi, everybody. All five of you.
The camera's right there. All five of you.
Okay, here's the poem. Putin is open to peace talks, but perhaps it is too soon, since Ukraine and its allies have a peace summit in June. In Papua New Guinea, a massive slide of the land, 2,000 feared dead, survivors dig with spade and hand. World Children's Day Rome took place in St. Peter's Square. The Pope presided this weekend over the celebratory affair. It's Memorial Day in America. This special day is observed. Remember those who fought and died. Remember those who served.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
There's your
All
poem.
right. Let's stick around because I know you like to see everybody before you take off for whatever you do during my show. Here's Sam Greenfield from New York. Hey, Sam.
Very nice poem, Susan.
Thank you.
Aren't those, I love those poems. They're always good.
Trump had a Memorial Day poem, but they wouldn't let him start off with suckers and losers. So
I'm just so tired of him. He's in so many of my poems, and so I left him out.
Saw a great.
if only America would do that.
I know.
Saw a great post today that said, "Do not thank me for my service. If after you thank me, you're going to vote for a guy who was a draft dodger and calls us."
I saw that.
Losers. Did you see that? Yeah.
I saw that too. Yeah. I told you, he could possibly say, I'm going to make rape a national, entitlement, and they'd vote for him. They don't care.
But I don't understand that. I just don't understand.
It's what I told you before. As long as he stays.
You know who we need to ask? Here he is. We need to ask Jason why they do that. Here he is, Jason.
Jason, tell us, why do they do that?
Well, I'd love to give you an answer, but I've just spent the past 30 seconds listening to my phone sounding like gibberish because our corporate overlords at Apple are demanding that I replace this 1.5-year-old $1,000 phone with a brand new phone manufactured with the very best high-skilled labor that can be bought out of Congo and China. And
I have Android.
Well,
you can get that fixed,
You have slightly less slave blood on your phone than I do on mine, so I guess you win that battle. Yeah.
I buy used.
I don't
buy new.
I have Android too.
I bought it used.
Knot?
What is the what?
Where's the Gordian knot you want me to cut through? What was the scenario that I missed out on?
Why we were going to, and you can go ahead, Jason. You can ask him.
Amazing.
Why does the Republican Party follow
right
in line with Trump? Why do they do
no matter
that?
What he says, no matter how stupid he sounds, they still follow him. when he says the late great Hannibal Lecter, they still follow him.
He's.
Why can't you guys come up with somebody other than Trump? Look,
How about somebody
if-
who's not a criminal?
if people, no. If people are voting for Trump, they're voting against Biden. That's all there is to it. If they're voting
If
for
they're
Trump,
voting for Biden, they're voting against Trump. It's easy to turn
so
that
you can put somebody else in there.
The Trump supporters drank the
I
Kool-Aid.
wouldn't agree with you
That's
more.
what
I
I'm-
mean, I think both parties deserve better.
Well,
I mean,
the
I
problem is
remember a
that
time when you-
the powers that be, you know, the Congress people, Republic are gutless. You know, they won't go against him because they're scared about the MAGAs who will vote against them. And what we have learned over the past couple of months is MAGA candidates have been losing. So if they've been losing, you know, go to the testicle store, buy a pair, and run against this idiot.
That sounds so Costanza.
Oh, you know what I found out?
Anza.
When Seinfeld was first written, Jerry Stiller's character, you know, Frank, what was his name?
Frank Costanza, yeah.
Frank Costanza was a meek, mild-mannered guy.
And then
and
they cast
his
Jerry,
wife-
and then they cast Jerry Stiller.
Right. And his wife was the, you know, like whip cracker.
All
And
right.
he was worried because he said, if I stay in this kind of character, I'm going to lose this job. So one day they're rehearsing, and he said he went for it. He said he started to yell, and everybody liked it better when he yelled, including Estelle Harris. She said, "This is perfect. I should absolutely be the mild-mannered one, and you should absolutely." You know, because she said it's not a matter of giving it up. You know, like surrendering something. He's better at that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this great
Did they
character
have
was
a-
created.
He was so
Was-
good on King of Queens too, playing the
Same
dad.
kind of character.
Yep.
Yeah.
Festivus for the rest of us.
For the rest of us. Serenity now.
The lifting of heavy objects.
The
Manzier.
man's ear.
You want a piece of me?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that was such a great show.
Oh, and who can forget? Well, Peter Boyle. I mean, starting from his work in Taxi Driver.
The
All the way up
lines they
through-
wrote for Peter Boyle
I mean, all the way up to the
in
end.
in
On
Raymond.
Frankenstein.
No, but in Raymond.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
when
Raymond,
he
I mean-
said, what I told you this one before, but when he says to his son says, well, you know, Raymond, how do you think I did in that interview? It was all right. You're not telling me what you really think. What did you think? It was fine. Let it go. Look at me. I'm your son. Tell me. All right. You really want to know? I could have eaten a bowl of alphabet soup and crapped a better interview.
You see, when you're a guy who looks like Peter Boyle looks, because let's face it, the man looks like a side of beef on a good day, right?
Right.
But he just understood how to chew up scenery. Just take whatever you give him, and he'll find a way to make more with it. You know, and it comes through. The camera loves him.
And the other thing, what was the other great line he had? Oh, I love this. Remember Robert Culp and Nancy Hellman played
Yes.
Nancy
Played the-
Heaton's
Right.
Yeah.
parents.
Right.
And he said, the looks that Peter Boyle gave them, I'm laughing thinking about it. But he says, Robert Culp says to him, guess where we're going on our second honeymoon? He goes, I have no idea. Come on, guess. I said, I have no idea. Tell me. Vietnam. What? Vietnam. What, are you going to give Charlie some payback? Oh, God. Oh, man. You know, I know Raymond was very, very good to his friends because Tom Catabiano, what's his name? And I can't remember this guy's name. Well, the hell with it. But a lot of the guys who wrote for him were old friends of his from his New York comedy days.
Cool.
It was a good show. My only tiny little criticism of Everybody Loves Raymond is that they missed out on the opportunity to develop storylines for the kids. The children became just scenery, really, and
That's what I know this for a
hardly
fact.
ever-
That's the way they wanted it. They had no
But I
intention
developed
of
story-
ever.
Perhaps, but I felt like that's a missed opportunity. Like Tim Allen incorporated the children. I mean, there's just such a wealth of
Well,
They felt
comedy.
the bus would get too crowded. They just said there's
Yeah.
too many people. You got Raymond, you got Raymond's brother. You got any girl that Raymond's brother has to be dating. You got Raymond's wife. You got Raymond's parents. You got her parents. You know, you put the kids in. After a while, you just have to sell them to a slave driver in the Congo, and that would
But
be
you say that
criminal.
like a bad thing, Sam, please.
Bernie,
I mean,
I didn't
Uncle
say that.
Bernie, that was so hilarious. I'm just
Who?
saying,
Uncle Bernie Mac, the Bernie
Bernie
Mac show.
Mac show.
They did
The
a good job.
children could have added more to it and taken.
But that
it
was just
beyond
Bernie. But
a
that was
good
just
show.
Bernie and the woman and the kids. This I'm talking about 6 people, not counting the kids.
Yeah.
It's too many
Plus,
people.
plus they had a
Yeah.
lot. Plus they had a lot of Raymond's co-workers and his poker buddies.
Yeah.
I'm saying the show was good. I enjoyed the show. That's my tiny little critique.
Is that
Was
sort of
that
like
the opportunity? That's all I'm saying.
I thought the genius in that was using the girl that played his wife, Patricia
Heaton.
using her. She had clinical depression, and they used that in her
In real
character.
life?
Yes, and I thought that was a great move, because now you've got an actress with diagnosed clinical depression, and you give that to the character. You didn't even have to write any lines that said, "Oh, I'm depressed," or had any scenes with her going to a therapist.
Oh no, they put a
did they?
whole episode in there where she got arrested. She was not driving, but behind the wheel drunk, and got arrested and had to do the whole.
By the way, Jason,
Yes, sir.
in real life, Patricia Heaton makes you look like Abby Hoffman.
Yeah, I've heard she's a little bit on the right side of things. Just a little.
Everything you
I'm
just
just
said
looking-
is true, except a little bit.
Yeah.
I make myself look like a Gene Scott Halloween character. I mean, oh my God.
That's funny.
She's more
that's a
attractive
reference.
than you, Jason, as well. So
Wouldn't it be great?
I mean, I have clinical depression too, and I'm just wondering what clinic did I go to get this?
Ah!
Can I give it back?
Open 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, do you think you're a little depressed? Oh, I don't know. I sometimes find myself laying on the ground with a 12 gauge in my mouth with just not enough energy to pull the trigger yet. I mean, just yeah.
Speaking
right.
of someone,
Are you
sounds
depressed?
like
Are you depressed but just don't have a diagnosis? Come on down to Jason's clinic.
Well, Stephen Wright always came across like he was clinically depressed. And I remember the first joke I ever heard him tell. He goes, I just want to know one thing. If 7-Eleven is open 24 hours a day, why do they have locks on the doors? And then the audience laughed. He goes, now I got him.
Well, I remember when Denny's decided to close one Christmas.
Yeah, they had to put a lock on.
Yeah, they had to go to a hardware store and buy chains and locks because nobody knew where the key was to lock the door.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
By the way, when you talk about people who like kill their own careers, let's go to Bobcat Goldthwait.
We should create a segment for that.
Bobcat Goldthwait was doing what show? The Larry Sanders Show. Okay. And
Brilliant
what I'm
show.
about to tell you is something he actually wanted to do. Okay? Actually wanted to do. And his lawyer told him, if you do this, you'll go to jail.
Wow.
Okay. He wanted to take Kathy Lee Gifford out to Denny's and spike her meal. And it was going to be a Grand Slam, the Grand Slam meal.
Mm-hmm.
With Ipecac.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Oh,
that's an assault.
And so, and I mean, and he really wanted, he mentioned this on the Larry Sanders Show, and I was talking to someone who wrote for that show, Mark, what was his name? Mark Martineau, yeah. And I said, that's a wild line, and Mark told me, no, he really wanted to do it.
Yeah,
now come on.
Good thing a lawyer stopped him because that would be criminal.
Well, no, he'd be in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And
that's
Kathy
assault
Lee
with
has
intent
the
to do bodily harm.
yeah.
If my Law and Order years of observing have
Have
done,
done
me.
done it.
my
Yeah.
law and or if my
Now
law
that
and order years, like Sam's this far from a law degree,
you
from his
know, I
law.
have been, do you guys remember the HBO series show The Comeback? It only had 2 seasons. Lisa Kudrow, where she plays a sort of an aging. She was the it girl. Then she gets hired in as
She
sort
was
of the.
terrific in that.
It was, and the thing is, it was one of those amazing sort of meta kind of series that the jokes were never like in your face. You had if you saw them, you got them, and they were hysterical.
All
And if
right.
you didn't, you just kind of wondered what the hell. Why was I watching this? Well, it just having gone back to watch a lot of Fernwood Tonight and America Tonight, and then
Oh,
seeing how that show kind of
oh,
influenced this whole stream of these behind the show. Larry Sanders. I mean, Harry Shearer was involved in Fernwood Tonight, which I did not
yep.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of makes sense now.
The best Larry Sanders episode that I saw was the one where Jeremy Piven got fired.
I didn't see that one.
Oh man.
I saw the one with Carol Burnett was on once,
Oh
and that one was
man.
great.
He they fired him because he was screwing the female writers and the female ushers and everybody. He was showing up late. He was, I'm sure all those guys smoke pot, but he looked high,
Oh, yeah.
when he was. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
what happens is they're letting him go, and this one scene where with Artie, Rip Torn, he goes to try to talk to him, and he goes, and he holds up his hand. Artie holds up his hand and says, we're done now, and this is closed off, and he closes this black curtain. Right, and Jeremy Piven turns around, and his face is immersed in sweat
Good camera
because he
work.
just got fired.
That's great.
And then the other thing that was funny was, I don't know if you ever saw this one, when Elvis Costello was on,
Yes.
and he says,
Yeah.
"Don't talk to him." He's very temperamental, and it wasn't true. He's trying to say hi to people, and they just walk right by him.
Right.
And he gets pissed about it. He goes, "No one's talking." So finally, at the end of the show, Artie, who's the main ass kisser, goes, "Declan," because that's his real name.
Real name. Yeah.
Declan, lovely having you on. Oh, was it really? No one would talk to me. No one would communicate with me. This is the biggest bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Well, I left you a little something in the green room, and believe me, it's been a pleasure. And he storms off, and they go into the green room, and the green room is completely trashed. And Larry Sanders goes, "Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. We haven't seen shit like this since Angela Lansbury was on." Oh my God.
Oh
What
my
a great,
God,
God, just priceless.
No, well, again, Rip Torn, the way you just give him anything, and he just knows how to run with it and score a touchdown every time. You in The Man Who Fell to Earth. I mean, Nicholas Roeg, David Bowie, and yet in that movie, there was an unfortunate nude scene which we could have done without, but yeah, what are you gonna do?
There's men
but
of a certain age, we can always do without that.
I have a mirror, and sadly, the damn thing works. I'm thinking about having it destroyed from the chin down, just to save myself, let alone anyone else. I mean,
Take
'cause
it back
I'm
to
good.
Target and tell them it's not working the way you planned.
Exactly. I mean, I should have 6-pack abs and an endowment that would make John Holmes blush with embarrassment. But sadly, no.
I pay money to see John Holmes blush with embarrassment. Yeah, here are the words you'll never hear John Holmes say. "Well, you got me."
John Holmes can't blush because he could never get that much blood to his face.
Well, if he did,
unless
the rest of his body would just cave in.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you what happened. What was it like in Detroit today? Did it rain?
It was
Little
very
bit.
cold.
It was
rained-
it thunder
it rained-
showered here like it was a monsoon.
It
So Barbara and I
rained-
go out to eat. Barbara and
Yeah,
I go out to
yesterday.
eat. I'm sorry.
I said that was yesterday. You have our weather from yesterday. We were like that yesterday.
So Barbara and I go out to eat, and there's no room inside. So we eat outside. And we were okay. It hadn't rained. It was just lightly raining at the time. And we said, we're fine. We're under an awning. It was a monsoon. It started dripping off the rain started dripping off to the side. My arm gets soaked. It's hell. So we
Someone
said to
set the rain machine to Bull Connor.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So we say to the server, and we were about done at this time. So we go inside, and I said, "Can I get waitresses today, young servers today, they have no idea what a doggy bag is. If
No.
you tell them you want a doggy bag, they have no idea what that means. So I said, could we get this to go? That's what you do now. So I said,
Yeah.
and hadn't finished my pasta. So I said, can I get this to go? And she said, I'm very sorry, but it rained right on it, and we can't.
Ooh.
They comped our meals,
Wow.
Well, there's that.
and then in me paying them back, and only I would do this. I stood up and I went, may I have your attention, please? I better make sure that you people tip these servers like you've never tipped before. They work their asses off. They're working outside in the rain. I don't want to hear applause. I want to see money come out of your pockets into their hands. It's enough for. And people went, yeah, yeah. And I hear they made a fortune. So,
Good.
well, but this thing about, well, I don't know if I should tip. I don't know if you should breathe. How's that? I don't know.
Well,
if I
yeah,
should tip.
there's the new generation that where they do cluelessness to a whole new level. I mean, with every older generation accuses the younger generation. This is not new. This has been going on since what Plato was. I mean, Plato, not the doughy stuff that your kids play with.
I
but the
understand not
philosopher.
tipping at Starbucks. I understand that.
Well, the thing is, again, without going on too deep of a rant, it's a corporate construct. Corporations don't want us to tip because basically they want the money. So they find different ways of going around this.
But you've
cultural
already
structure
ordered. I mean,
that's been in
it's
place
fait
for a long
accompli.
time.
They've already ordered. There's no taking of money from the corporation.
But they don't see it that way. A good example, this happened over the weekend. This went viral. You had some billionaire douchebag guy. Well, I shouldn't say that. He was a billionaire dude, grabs an Uber out of the airport out of LaGuardia. And he's talking to the cab driver who is being dispatched by Uber. There's now a program where Uber dispatches cabs in New York.
Wow.
And he asked the guy what he thinks about it. He goes,
So much for having a
ridiculous.
medallion.
Yeah, well, he goes, he says it's ridiculous because they rip us off on tips. And the guy goes, really? He goes, yeah. So he tips the guy $5, and he sees his order come up completed on the driver's phone with no tip. Well, he happens to have the CEO of Uber's actual phone number. He can text him. He takes a picture of his phone, the other dude's phone, and says, Dara, what's going on here? And then he puts it on Twitter. And now for the last couple of days, Uber's been going, no, we don't do this. We don't blah, blah, blah. I've heard people tell me for years now, I'll tip you on the app. I'll tip you on the app. And I get nothing. And of course,
I believe that.
I don't have the ability to audit a giant computer system. I just don't have $100 million to initiate legal action.
When I was waiting tables, these three guys come in, dressed to the nines.
Right.
Nice guys. They have their meal, and they leave me a cash tip.
Nice.
One of them comes back when the other two had already left to take his section of the tip off the table. And I grabbed his wrist and I
What are
said,
you doing?
put it down. Like that. I went, put the money down.
Walk away.
Put it down, or I'm going to say, sir, please don't touch me.
I love it.
And of course, with my luck, he'd go, oh, really? So, yeah, and he put it down. I said, you should be so ashamed. So ashamed. He says, I want to know your boss's name. So I said, he's right there. His name is David. And David comes over.
Go say hi.
And I said, and so David said, what happened here? So I said, well, here's what happened. And I told him what happened. And, there are a lot of managers who would have told this guy, I'm very sorry, sir. He was very irresponsible. David said to the guy, don't ever come back here.
Yeah.
Just don't come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. People survive. Those tips are important. Uber has it's been demonstrated. They have a subroutine. The more you tip, the more they charge you on your fare. They have a way, because the computers are powerful enough now. They figure out what your behavior is, and they figure, well, you can spend. So they just charge more on the fare, which of course goes into their pocket.
It's just amazing.
And we allow this to go on. By the way, this has been allowed to go on under both Republican and Democrat
Oh no,
administrations.
this is party free. This is
yeah,
not
exactly.
free. This is free of affiliation.
They bought both parties because they went fairly cheap, and believe you me, I mean it absolutely infuriates me. This is sort of like, this is Dick Cheney's America, only supercharged.
Well, you know
And
what kills me is I was
many
waiting on
things.
this kid,
Yeah.
and I mean kid, like 19, 20 years old. His father worked at the restaurant
Right.
where we were. Okay, worked at the restaurant. He was the head accountant, and the kid comes in with 3 of his friends, and it was like a $35 tab, and they left me
Right.
$3. And I told his father, and his father said, "Well, they didn't have a lot of money." I said, 20% of 35 is 7.
Yeah.
They didn't have another $4 between them.
Right.
And he goes, "Well," I said, "don't make excuses. Your son's a cheap shit."
You raised him badly.
Yeah, you really did. I mean,
you raised him poorly.
So so the kid came in again with his friends, and I said, "I want you to not come to my table because you're a lousy tipper." "Well, I don't have to tip you anything." I said, "If your food starts to taste funny and you start to get dizzy,
and Bobcat Goldthwait is nearby,
and you hear somebody whisper to somebody, 'ground glass.'" That bullshit.
I don't. You'd like to think that somehow or another there's an enlightenment that is coming their way, but those aren't necessarily good things to wish for. It's like the Chinese curse: "May you live in interesting times." Because they have sort of a subtle, backhanded way of being not too terribly up. One of the best examples of it, going back in time here, as I love to do, on Channel 4, the day George Wallace got shot, the former governor, not the comedian.
Well, you talk about a hostile crowd.
Yeah, tell me about it. And when you get shot by a guy who does it so that he can achieve immortal fame, his
Arthur Bremer.
Oh, you see, you spoil the joke when you.
I'm sorry.
They were outside the River Rouge plant, and they were talking to black guys coming off shift, saying, "Did you hear George Wallace was shot?" Because Wallace at the time was running ahead in the Michigan primary. This is 1976, when Democrats are shitting their pants over Jimmy Carter. I mean,
I thought he was shot in 72.
72. Okay, you're right.
It was 72.
It was 72.
It was May 15th, 1972. Yes. And the reason I remember that, it's my niece's birthday.
Well, there you go. I remember Cornelia being, over him and what. At any rate, though, they asked this guy, what about and it was an older gentleman. He goes, "Oh, I don't know. Some people think maybe he had it coming." I mean, it was just sort of that nice sort of left-handed, not like, motherfucker should have been 10 more. No, just some people say.
Well, I just read this thing the other day about Walter Brennan.
Yeah.
And Walter Brennan, when he found out that Martin Luther King was shot, applauded and did a little dance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and not only, but I knew he was a big right winger, but I didn't know he was a virulent racist. And he did a little dance, and people said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm so happy he's dead."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Hoffa, when he finds out that JFK's been shot and killed, leaves the American flag at full staff over Teamsters headquarters. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something about that.
I mean, hatred's a funny thing, man. And
people are under the impression, who aren't of my generation, let's say, that that the whole nation was grief-stricken when JFK was shot. There were people in my neighborhood in DC, okay, who were thrilled. I'm so happy that nigger lover got shot. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
and in Texas, people were yelling, "Die!" It's
and the same thing goes with Kennedy being a Catholic. I mean, we can't have that mackerel snapping Pope lover.
I had a friend who, when Kennedy was running, remember, once again, this is DC. His father said, we're gonna have to build birdhouses around the White House to hold all the cardinals.
But then Jesse Jackson gets busted on the whole Hymietown thing, and it's an offhanded remark and it's a crude remark, but it's really no big deal. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Jesse
It's a
Jackson
big
was running.
It's a big deal when your main contributors are Jews.
Jews. I know. Again, it wasn't. How many of us behind closed doors have said stuff that later on we go, okay, yeah.
Well, just my
Probably
mother, but
shouldn't have
she's a
done that.
self-hating Jew.
Exactly. I mean, that was done to torpedo him because the Democrat Party just didn't think that a black man could run on their ticket and win. So instead, they put in the powerhouse that was Governor Dukakis. They did the same thing. They did the same thing to Howard. What's his name? Dean Witter. Howard. You know what I mean? In 2004, when he's Howard Dean.
Howard Dean.
If you were
Howard
at, you know,
Dean
I was told that if you were
comes
at
out-
that event, he
Yeah.
didn't sound nearly as bad as he did.
No,
and
well,
I frankly think he would have
it's
been a good candidate.
It's all in.
exactly.
It's all in post production. Everything is in post production.
Exactly. Howard Dean would have been a much better candidate, and there's a pretty good chance I think he would have won in 2004. Bush was not particularly well loved in 2004, and the fact is that once again he'd stumbled us into a forever war, promising what? Remember promises of weapons of mass destruction? We ever find them? How many Americans did we get killed in that war for nothing?
There was a line.
How many Iraqis did we kill for nothing?
There was a line in the book by Bob Woodward when he was when Cheney was saying we should attack Iran, okay, over weapons of mass destruction, and the line was, and Woodward wrote this. As soon as he said that, George Bush rolled his eyes and said, how many people here agree with Dick? You want to be great?
Yeah.
And one guy said, I always will. But no. No, but he said, no one did. No one.
Right.
And then she started, Condoleezza Rice, who George Bush really liked, started to say something, and Cheney interrupted her, and Bush said, Dick, keep quiet and let her finish. And that was the handwriting on the wall.
Well, and they torpedo the career of Colin Powell.
Yeah.
A man who served with great dignity, great intelligence, and aplomb. I mean, you don't work your way up to become a 4-star general. That's not a DEA hire. It's not, or DEI, whatever. I don't. The fact
and
of the matter,
Rumsfeld was the most inconsequential person in either party to ever. Oh. You know, he's the only person of that age who served in the military and not during a war.
Whose military? Napoleon's?
No, 54 to 57. There was no war. 54 to 57. There was no.
Yeah.
And so he retires. Change that to fired, but he retires, and
Frank Carlucci comes in and he stays for Obama's first 2 years.
And when Cheney says the farewell to him, right? And this is in front of George Bush. He goes, I have never had a better boss than him, and I never will. And Bush is sitting there.
Yeah. It's a tricky job. Thank you to Robert McNamara for not letting the world get blown up in '62 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, because he really was one of the people who was standing in Curtis LeMay's way, and LeMay was ready. I mean,
oh my God, George Bush's possible running, was he his running mate?
No. By then, no. He actually ran with George Wallace in '68. Remember when he when LeMay is saying, well, we'll bomb them back to the Stone Age, and even George Wallace is saying, tone it down. When Wallace is telling you to tone it down, the Southern punk rock star of Democrat politics of 1968.
Well, the line I like was
who was put in there to submarine Hubert Humphrey, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. The line I like was Chris Rock's. He said, they're going to bomb Afghanistan. It's too late.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Who's going to notice?
What are you going to bomb?
Yeah. And it didn't help. And here's where I lost respect for not for President Clinton, but for his people. His former staff were saying, we wish this had happened during our term. It's like, yeah, again, I didn't get too worked up about it, but it's like, some comments are better left unsaid. Bill's record on terrorism and whatnot during the 90s is pretty enviable. There were some incidents, but there's always incidents. And he did manage to keep us out of major conflicts, save for the little affair in Kosovo, where, to our credit, we did help remodel the Chinese embassy. I think we did reimburse them for gargoyles out in front of the embassy. But, other than that, we did pretty good.
It was a pretty gargoyle.
Well, new burial urns, whatever we had in there. But again, that particular section of Europe has been a meat grinder for 1,000 years. It's best left alone. Fence it off. We'll deal with the winners. Europe's a funny place, but that particular section, there's a
I hope
reason
that's
why
not
the
their
stories
slogan.
No, but there's a reason why Vlad the Impaler and other such fun people, and what was it, Radovan Karadovic or whatever, all these others, butchers, just absolute butchers of human beings, run rampant down there, and they're still hailed as heroes to this very day. I mean, there are still people in Russia that still hail Stalin. Stalin was the great reformer and the guy who changed us into a superpower. Yes, he killed 20 million of us, but yeah,
Did you ever see the not documentary, the movie on Stalin where Robert Duvall played Stalin?
Yes, brilliant.
He was something.
He was scary as Stalin.
The best thing I ever saw him do is I don't know if you saw this movie, The Apostle.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Oh,
it's a shame he doesn't
Farrah
act
Fawcett,
anymore.
Walton Goggins.
Yep. Another great
really,
actor.
Really impressive.
Walton Goggins was in The Shield in the early 2000s. Now he's doing all kinds of stuff. He has some lines in The Shield that I can't believe were actually uttered on TV, and he puts them across with such venom, but with such authenticity. He's a great actor. I mean, you have a hard time. I'm sure he's not like that off duty. Like you guys were telling me about Clancy Brown, who plays a great villain, but off duty, a sweetheart of a guy.
In the movie, The Apostle, he played kind of a milquetoast.
Yes. Yeah. Ernest Borgnine is another guy. You remember the scene from Emperor of the North when he and Lee Marvin are fighting? They spent like a month filming that. But you had two guys who had they'd go to the bar, they'd have fun, they'd grab a couple waitresses, whatever. But in that movie, in Emperor of the North, I mean, tell me that Ernest Borgnine just doesn't manifest true malevolence, and get it right on the celluloid there. What a great actor.
The train conductor Shaq.
Yes. And Lee Marvin playing sort of the king of the hobos.
Keith Carradine.
Yes. God, yeah. Who directed that? That wasn't Peckinpah, was it?
I don't know.
Which film?
Emperor of the North.
I
think the full title was Emperor of the North Pole, but Emperor of the North.
No.
Yeah.
With Ernest Borgnine and Lee Marvin, that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Simon Oakland.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Great movie.
The scene where Simon Oakland is out there and all the bums are hiding, and they go, "You want to come look for us? You got about as much chance as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest." It's an old line, but it's very funny. But Marvin, that was like an Oscar-winning performance. He was.
Yeah, it was.
By the way, go ahead.
Well, one of the best performances I ever saw Alan Alda ever give was in the TV production of The Glass House, written, I believe, by Truman Capote.
Emperor of the North, Robert Aldrich.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that was Haskell Wexford on the director of photography. Just off the top of my head. It's usually him or Conrad Black Conrad Hall did most of the DP work back then and did a lot of really good stuff. But do you remember Alan Alda in Glass House, where he plays a doctor who gets sent to prison because he killed a man in a fight? He plays a very mild-mannered man, but then refuses to go along with the drug distribution and whatnot. This was a made-for-TV movie, and it got pretty violent and graphic and direct, and the sort of thing I don't think you'd see on network television anymore.
The
Not
most
even
graphic
close.
movie I ever saw was on TV was Oz.
Yes. Yeah, that was on HBO, and that was like one of their first series. And Dean Winters, who now gets a pretty good living, doing the Mayhem commercials, if memory serves.
Yes.
You know, again, and that was also the first time I ever saw Edie Falco, who would later go on to
Who?
star Edie Falco. Remember, she played
Edie Falco and
yeah, little
in
thing
Oz,
called The
and Zelko
Sopranos.
Ivanek.
Yes, and again, good series that it gave young actors a chance to get out there.
The only problem with Oz that bothered me was that if there was actually a prison where that many people got killed, they closed the prison.
Yep.
Well, having been in prison, I will tell you that nothing moves as fast as they did in that show. They'd have one where they do something, and the next scene, the guy's on death row, and it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You
know the
don't
actor who does the Dean, who does Dean Winters.
Yeah.
In the TV show Homicide.
Great show.
He plays a prisoner, and a riot breaks out, and they send in the goon squad, and they just beat the shit out of everybody.
Yep.
And this guy is laying dead at Dean Winters' feet.
Yep.
And cut to the chase, Dean Winters, as he described himself, was a herm.
Yes, I heard him.
Okay, he was a man, but he was another man's woman.
Yes, he was a girlfriend.
Cinematographer on Emperor of the North.
Yeah,
Joseph Byrock.
Doesn't ring any bells.
Joseph Byrock or B-Rock, B-I-R-O-C.
No clue.
No clue.
Well, his best known film that he was cinematographer on was It's a Wonderful Life. He was a cinematographer on. He was
on It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep.
Wow.
He was. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. That was 44, but in Emperor of the North was in 73. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he was. Yeah, he was the co-cinematographer with Joseph Walker on It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay. In 1946.
And then in 46, yep. And then he started doing film noir. He was Pride Danger, Red Planet from Mars, Wanna Devil, China, and then on the TV series China Smith in the 50s, Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
Oh, what a great movie!
Flight of the Phoenix.
Horrible Southern trash. I loved it.
Well, he
was a cinematographer on The Towering Inferno.
There you go.
That's a great movie.
Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. I think it was
and
the
O.J.
only time...
Simpson.
And it looked like
forget.
And they offered Steve McQueen the part that Paul Newman had.
Right, the architect.
And he said, "No, I'm good."
Yeah. What was the movie where Ava Gardner? Is it?
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
All right.
Wait, hold it.
Hold it. He was
There's
also
more.
a cinematographer. Wait a minute. He was a cinematographer on Blazing Saddles and Airplane.
Oh, well,
on Blazing Saddles?
Yeah.
There you go.
So he conquered
amazing.
fear and he conquered hate.
Yeah.
And was able to get a good shot of Count Basie playing in the desert.
Stark thematic contrast, he worked with Mel Brooks on the seminal comedy western Blazing Saddles and with Jim Abrams and Dave Zucker on the equally hilarious airborne farce Airplane.
Yeah.
Excuse me, stewardess. I speak jive.
He had 159 credits to his name.
Well,
wow.
The guy had a career.
This is interesting. In 1946, It's a Wonderful Life came out at the same time as Best Years of Our Lives.
Great movie.
And It's a Wonderful Life did not make a lot of money when it first came out because people thought it was too dark.
Did you hear why?
Well,
you hear why it became what it became? You've heard this story, haven't you? Whoever was supposed, It's a Wonderful Life. You own a copyright for 75 years.
Right.
If the registered, you can do an unregistered copyright, but in order to actually claim the copyright, you have to register it. Somebody forgot to register It's a Wonderful Life. That's why it was in public domain for all
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
Somebody is now
forgot.
laying dead in the Potomac
Exactly.
River.
Exactly. Somebody
out there doing the Wilbur Mills.
that was
shuffle.
that. There was another one that they used to play late night because before it became a big hit. I remember we used to see It's a Wonderful Life all the time on the UHF. Now Jason knows this station 62, the
Oh,
UHF
yes.
that had It's a Wonderful Life all the time.
All the time.
Remember the film they used to play? The other film they used to play, Meet
No.
John Doe with Gary Cooper. That was another one
Okay.
that the copyright wasn't registered properly, so it went into the public domain, and so these TV stations could play it without paying.
Channel 62, which got on the air, it was owned by the Black Masons, who
Yep.
were big fans of Richard Nixon. And Nixon pulled some strings and did some favors to get them on the air with just a shoestring budget. But of course, they are still remembered for their local production, their version of Soul Train, of course, called The Scene.
The Scene. Oh my God.
Which was shot with one camera, panning back and forth.
Yeah. It put Soul Train to shame. It was so good.
Boy.
It was so good. It was so good. That was, you remember that, Jason? If you wanted to be
exposure,
if you wanted to get into black culture and your parents could never know about it, The Scene.
Yes, this was the way to do it. Go down there when they're shooting. Just walk right in. Don't worry about a thing, and you get on that show. And speaking, gentlemen,
what I thought was great. You know, you ever read this? There should be a book about that because they used to move the studio. The studio wasn't at a television studio. It was always at some warehouse.
Really?
It was always like some rental hall or warehouse.
Know that.
Yeah, it was like.
Remember, they had their own version of Bowling for Dollars called Make It and Take It, and the prizes would be like lawn furniture.
Yes,
beer cozies.
I tell you, and Detroit was able to do black television 30, 40 years before any other, even BET was around.
Absolutely.
And if you were a kid in this town, you loved it.
Oh yeah.
You absolutely. We had black television on 62, and then over on Channel 9 we had Canadian television.
Which is the polar opposite.
Exactly. That's what I love. And the thing is about it is, you thought everybody had this. When you're a kid, you think everybody's got a black TV station and a Canadian TV station.
Right.
And it was an educational
on the Canadian show. Remember late night, sometimes you get an R-rated movie and you get some real boobs bouncing across the TV screen.
Yes.
I mean, that's why we watch Canadian television. Think the cultural enrichment in the forms of boobs was
I remember
absolutely.
too when the rest of the country had to wait for PBS to play Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Yes.
The Canadian Broadcasting Company had it on a couple years before that, so we got a preview on it too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, having those extremes present.
God bless the Canadians. We had better we had better hockey broadcasts because we had Howie Meeker and John Cherry. Oh man, it was
Don Cherry.
Sadly, we had the Red
King
Wings
of the
of
sports
the 1970s.
jackets.
Well, that's true.
Well,
it was. I like to think of it as the Red Wings between Gordie Howe and Steve Yzerman.
remember when again a guy, the guy who bought it, the guy who owned Little Caesars. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Mike Ilitch.
Yes. Mike Ilitch. Genuine rich man who genuinely loved the people who worked for him. Even though the Red Wings were the most reprehensible team in college or in professional sports, he'd buy them cars. He would dote on them for Christmas presents. He would sign people and actually pay them. He was the
owner during the last 3 Stanley Cup championships.
Exactly. He turned them into a championship team.
Is Monahan still alive?
Sadly, yes.
Monahan is still alive, yeah.
Sadly, yes.
He must be in his 80s.
Well, Satan's a little older, but I think Monahan's done more damage.
Yeah, but here's the difference. With Monahan, the sulfur you smell comes on the pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And if I had, it's like, here's your choice: go down on Satan's cock or spend an evening with Tom Monahan. That's easy. It's like
I'm thinking.
Hello,
Satan.
You know what gets me is that Illich and you had Monahan, the two largest pizza chains.
Polar opposites and totally different people.
I know, but not just that, and now we have Detroit style pizza, and neither one of those companies, until it became popular, ever served
Right.
Detroit style pizza.
No, they didn't. They're both sort of commercial dreck.
Monahan's wife, when he
Oh.
married her, was a Lutheran. And he
Yeah,
said
it still is.
if he had known that she wouldn't convert to Catholicism, he wouldn't have married her.
Well,
They're still
Monahan
married,
for
though.
years. Monahan for years.
Well,
claimed
sure,
that he
they're
was
still married. He's a gazillionaire. What's she
Oh,
going to
absolutely.
do?
She will never
Pursue her career as
she
a
will never divorce him.
microbiologist?
Yeah. Monahan claimed that he was an orphan for years because at a period in his life, his mom put him and his little brother in a Catholic orphanage because their father had died and they were literally about to be thrown out into the streets. She managed to put him in there and for about 6 months, and he never forgave her for it. And for years after he bought the Tigers and after he's claiming he's an orphan, his mother was living in the area, the one of the Domino's that I managed. She was in I delivered to her. I mean, it's like, no, Tom, your mom's alive and well. She's a retired nurse, and you won't speak to her because you're a fucking psychopath. And the sooner someone does something youthful, like feed you into a tree chipper, one little lump at a time,
Well,
the
that's
sooner
not
the
fair.
world
I heard
becomes a better
that.
place.
I heard that she orphaned him by choice.
She did. She put him in an orphanage because they had nowhere else to go.
Because he was annoying.
Well,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He
Well,
knew
You
he
know,
was. He knew he was going to grow up to be Tom Monahan. So,
Greg Rogel.
I know,
He
Greg.
said, Dad, he said he came home one day and said, Dad, some kids were picking on me today and they said some terrible things about me. And his father said, son, throughout your life, this is going to happen because you're annoying. Oh, God, that's so great. He said, let me tell you something. New Yorkers are tough. How many
Yeah.
people will eat a hot dog that's been in that fucking water for 3 hours?
And pay money for the.
Here's some news that wasn't in Susan's poem. Did you hear, Jason, about General Motors moving?
Oh, what?
They're moving over to Woodward Avenue from the Renaissance Center. Now, the Renaissance. When you look at a picture of a skyline of Detroit, the Renaissance Center is fairly predominant.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she was saying that they're not eliminating the possibility of tearing it down.
You're kidding.
Of tearing down the Ren Center?
Yeah.
That was a good example. That was when Detroit was on its knees, but Coleman Young working with Governor Milliken, again, Coleman Young, who's like soul brother number one, and Governor Milliken, who couldn't be more milquetoast white honky-dum. Yet the two guys, if he said golly gosh darn, he was enraged and angry. But a hell of a governor, and those two guys worked together to get that building built. Yeah, at the time, one of the biggest buildings in the Midwest. Later on, I think the Sears Tower sort of eclipses it.
Right.
And I don't know. I can't see that. I can't see tearing that down. Why on earth would you pancake that thing? I mean, I understand why they would. It's for money. It's because of the depreciation they'll take on it. But still,
Yeah, it's not. Have you been in the Renaissance Center?
Me?
Not legally.
No, I'm talking to Jason. I don't think. Have you been there, Sam? I don't think you've been.
No.
There. It's not.
I was snuck in once in someone's suitcase, but it was a different time, and I needed to make some money for rent. But never mind that. So
you know what they'll do with that thing? They'll film a dystopian film in there to show how desolate the architecture. I mean, it's just. It was fun when I was in college to go down there and just play hide and seek because you could actually get lost in the thing, and we, 3 weeks later when somebody made their way out, we would laugh at them, for getting suckered into a game of hide and seek at the Renaissance Center.
It's very 1975, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's Mike Brady come to life.
What artist made that big fist?
Oh, do you mean the one there in Detroit or the one that
Yes,
visits
the one
me
in
on Friday?
Detroit.
That one. Okay,
Joe Louis. Oh, so who is the sculptor?
That's supposed to be Joe Louis's fist?
You're
Yes.
damn right.
I'm going to ask
Although
Google.
Joe Louis's fist didn't have that much lube on it, but never mind that.
All
Um,
righty.
Was the artist for Joe Lewis?
You know I was going to make the remark. Come on,
at
come on.
Jefferson and Woodward in Detroit.
There was a guy about 10 years ago who got
Robert
pissed
Graham.
about.
Robert Graham was the
Oh,
sculptor.
you know who he is?
I'm going to find
No
out.
idea.
Who is he?
Robert Graham was married to
Virginia
Angelica
Graham.
Houston.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yep. He's married to Angelica Houston. He was famous. I think he passed away. But yeah, they were married.
Yeah. They had some guy about 10, 15 years ago as a protest start trying to paint the fist with whitewash paint.
You're
And
kidding.
it's like, no, I'm not. I was like, dude, come on. What are you trying to do? First off, if Joe Lewis were here, he just would roll his eyes. You know,
The sculpture is made of bronze.
If Sammy Davis was alive, he'd roll his eye.
Oh, not a Sammy Davis one-eye joke, but there you
my
go.
favorite one is Kim Carnes has a new song out, Sammy Davis Eye.
Very funny.
God. Oh. And can anyone forget where they were the first time we saw
Oh,
him
you know
All
what?
in the Family?
That fist actually has an owner.
Say
You're
again?
Kidding.
I thought the city of Detroit owned it. The city of Detroit does not own that fist. It's owned by the Detroit Institute of Arts.
Huh.
What was the name of your mayor who wound up doing time?
Well, there
Kwame
were so many, but Kwame Kilpatrick
Oh,
is who
stop
you're
it.
thinking of.
Kwame Kilpatrick. In our lifetime, Kwame Kilpatrick.
And he ended up doing time because his mommy backed the wrong candidate back in 2008. Well, actually 2006. She got on the Hillary train because she thought Barack Obama was this upstart nobody so-and-so. Hillary was clearly the person to back.
You know what? She was a woman too, so let's not discount that.
Well, that's true. At any rate, though, as
I'll
we
be
all
damned.
know,
He was married to Angelica Houston. I'll be damned.
Yeah.
I'm stunned by the shit I actually know.
Isn't that something? You know
By
what?
the way, you mentioned Wilbur Mills, and he went into the Potomac driving a car.
That's
Yeah.
right. With Fanny
Remember
Fox.
the name of the woman he was with?
Was it Fanny Fox?
Fanny Fox. That's yes,
There
sir.
you go. That's right.
The Tidal Basin bombshell.
That
That's
was
right.
that Fanny Fox was his niece.
Yeah. Got it.
Oh my God! Yeah, that was back when politics was fun. You get caught with a live girl, dead boy, or dead boy alive, something like that, and nowadays, I mean, it's just nothing.
And let's not forget Bill Walton passed away.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, talk about
What
having
a
a good life.
What a beloved figure. Do you know how many surgeries he had? 39.
For the
Knee
cancer?
or back or
No, for his back, his knees,
Wow.
a lot of times when guys are that tall, okay,
Yeah.
their bodies can't accompany the amount of what am I trying to say? Is stretch, and that accompanies that kind of growth.
Oh, some part of them grow really big and stretch.
Yeah,
Well, never mind.
Sam Bowie, who was like the second draft choice, a guy like that. By the way, the game is 46-44 right now. Boston is in the lead. 6 minutes and 12 seconds left in the second half. In the second quarter.
There's no way Boston's going to lose that series.
I'm going to let me speak as a Yankee fan. You never know.
Oh, that's true.
What's it like to have
A Yankee fan would
basketball?
say that.
Must be great.
I didn't hear you, Jason. What's
it
like?
like to have professional basketball? Because we don't have that in our town anymore. Our team got sold out. Yeah.
The Wizards have not won a championship since 1978.
Oof.
Well, we have 3 since then.
That is correct. You have. Quit your bitching.
Quit your
Now we've
wait a
got
minute,
this mutant thing that's called a basketball team.
We were only the Wizards are only 1 or 2 games better than your team.
I mean, at least
here's what's wrong with it. Here's what's wrong with our team. 3 years in a row we finished with the worst record. 3 years in a row we draw 5th in the lottery.
Our ownership does not want a good team. Our ownership treats us as a cash cow. It was a vulture cap company that bought them out. They sold their stadium and tore it down.
That's what happened to Red Lobster. That's why Red Lobster went under. A
Yep.
venture capitalist bought him out.
Yep. Vulture
4
Cap
year-
Company came in there and just and as long as they are owned, they'll cash the TV contract, which is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They'll put $1.75 into the team and hammer the check for the rest, because when you have billions of dollars, you need more. That's just the way it is, right?
Mark, it's
Henry?
9:00.
Oh dear.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. That's the end of our show. I should have been keeping track of the clock.
On
Sorry.
that happy note.
On that happy note, we can talk about things after the show's done. I do want to end it in an hour because, I want to keep some
Right.
sort of professional.
Keep it
decorum.
professional.
Exactly.
Right.
Anyway, let me get the closing music out here, and we'll say goodbye, everybody. See you next
There you
week, 8:00 Monday night. All right. Let's end it with that, and we'll see you guys next week.